abroad for your post-secondary or postgraduate studies? Stand a chance to win a $1,000 or $500 tuition fee scholarship. Attend the Harvest Field Education Virtual Fair on Saturday, the 1st of May from 4 to 8 p.m. West Africa time. Meet reps from top institutions in Canada, the UK, Ireland, and the USA. Chat, download their materials, and upload your credentials for immediate assessment. Access is free, but registration is compulsory. Visit harvestfieldedu.vfairs.com to register now. You will receive a confirmation email with your login details to join us from the comfort of your home. Harvest Field Education Services, your best guide to studying abroad. Email harvestfieldedu@yahoo.com.
Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We are indeed sorry for the late start of today's edition of Prime Hour. We are almost 40 minutes behind time. We this day plan to discuss on the controversial UN Resolution 1608, asking the questions why so many persons are confused when it comes to that resolution. Politicians or activists are using that same resolution for propaganda. We are going to be discussing it with historians, experts on issues of law, and panelists, regular panelists who are already here with us in the studio. With us is Senior Barister Ashu Emmanuel, who is the National President of the Reform Party. He is equally a member of the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. We are glad to have you with us, Senior Barister.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Good evening, fellow panelists. Good evening, televiewers. It's nice having you again. I had to take some time off my Ramadan program and answer Mr. Leo's call.
We are also very sorry for taking, because we know it's not easy after fasting the whole day. Instead of having a decent breakfast, you are here to talk to the people.
Breakfast and prayer.
Yes. Yeah, we equally are in the company of Mr. Mofor Geoge. He is a member of the civil society, an educationist, and someone who has been very involved with these issues of the Anglophone issues. He was very also involved with the AAC. Was it AAC 1 and 2? We are glad to have you.
Thank you. I think it's a pleasure, especially having received the first blessing of the rain for 2021. We are here. Good evening to our viewers. Good evening to fellow panelists. And we think we are going to contribute our own quota in reducing the uncertainties in the minds of those who are concerned and take decisions that will move the country ahead.
Okay, we are also in the company of Tah Marvis. Good evening, Tah, and welcome.
Well, good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening to the fellow panelists. Good evening to the Bishop of Buea, His Lordship Michael Bibi, and of course the President of the Catholic University of Buea, Professor Victor Julius.
We equally are in the company of a historian, Ndifor Richard, who is going to be contributing from the United States of America. Good evening, Ndifor, and welcome.
Good evening, Leo. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure being on the program, and I'm very glad to be taking part in this very important discussion, which has been a point of controversy in many quarters in Cameroon.
Okay, just to tell our televiewers that we are going to be having the participation on this edition of the program of Professor Victor Julius Ngo. He is a historian. We are going to be listening to him, and also an excerpt from Dr. Simon Munzu. I had him on here last week. After that interview, we've had lots and lots of reactions, but we are going to, however, listen to what he said and find out what was wrong in what he said. But I'll start with you, Senior Barister Ashu Emmanuel. Why do we have lots of controversies when it comes to the UN Resolution 1608?
Well, Mr. Liu, I don't know why people would choose to introduce controversy in something that speaks for itself. Resolution 1608 is something, it's an international instrument which only requires that people should read it. I don't understand why people choose to wrangle instead of reading something that is simple. This is a General Assembly resolution which is in five points, and I think that all these people who want to read other meanings into it, they have some other motives. It is not a point of conjecture. This is international law. You read it, and then you see with the background you have, if you want to make interpretation, that is something else. But the wordings of the resolution are very clear. They don't call for any polemics. So I don't know why people will be dabbling left and right instead of reading the thing clearly. To put an end to this nonsense, let's open it and read it, and let's see whether the reading of this resolution will call for any controversy.
Okay. I want us to listen to the reading that Dr. Simon Munzu made of Resolution 1608, as well as Professor Victor Julius Ngo, so that we understand where the controversy is possibly coming from.
Just asking that should elaborate on that same 1608 section 5. What does it say?
I wish we could quote it, because you see, it's we could read it here. But to paraphrase or to summarize, contrary to what separatist propaganda out there says, the UN starts by acknowledging the outcome of the plebiscite, the results. Okay, the outcome of the plebiscite. Even goes on to congratulate and to thank the plebiscite commissioner who conducted the plebiscite. Goes on to observe that this, the choice of the people of Southern Cameroon was done freely, with knowledge of the consequences, etc., etc. All that in the preamble, and then it now comes to the substantive part of the resolution, where the most important thing it says is that for Northern Cameroons, for which they had evidence that the arrangements between the Northern Cameroons and the Federation of Nigeria and the United Kingdom had been concluded, I had agreed that Northern Cameroons was going to become a province in the northern region of Nigeria at the time when Nigeria had only 3 regions, and ultimately that territory was named the Sadauna province within northern Nigeria. Now, because all that was clear as at 21st of April 1961, the General Assembly resolved that northern Nigeria should get its independence on the 1st of June 1961. Then they came to Southern Cameroons, and they said that they invited the government of Southern Cameroons, the government of the United Kingdom, and the Republic of Cameroon to resume and pursue their discussions to arrive at arrangements by which the decision of the choice of the people of Southern Cameroons would be given effect. But to do that, and this is important, they said that to do that, to complete that, not later than the 1st of October 1961, the day on which the trusteeship, they said the day on which the trusteeship agreement between the United Kingdom and the United Nations will end. Because they didn't even say the day on which Southern Cameroons will get its independence. That was implicit from the fact that we had voted on the 11th of February 1961 to achieve independence by. So what they said was rather, complete this thing before the 1st of October 1961, the day on which the trusteeship agreement between the United Kingdom and the United Nations would end. You see, so that's why in all of this, it is extremely difficult that the UN would impose, first of all, that it will go back to so-called unfinished business, for it there is no unfinished business, but also that having underwritten the outcome of 1961, that UN will now come and say, go and conduct a referendum.
Many persons are asking whether it was possible for another referendum to be done.
No, well, if people want to push for it, I will not stand on their way. I said, please go ahead. I don't know where you will go to ask for it. By all means, go ahead. Let me see what the answer would be. But as of now, in my opinion, the UN, which was a midwife of the birth of this country in 1961, is not going to come and tell the government of Cameroon, we are organizing a referendum in your country. By the way, a referendum cannot be organized in a sovereign country without the consent of that country. So, and that's where, again, I said to my compatriots in Atlanta, if we are going to insist on getting independence, don't deceive the people by thinking that you are going to get it through diplomacy.
Okay.
Because at the time, Mr. Julius Ayuktabe and others were crisscrossing the country, the diplomatic offensive and all of that. So you're kidding, you're fooling yourselves. You are not going to get this through diplomacy. So if you insist on independence, know that it can only come through war. Go and listen to the video of my talk that day. It can only come through war. In that case, let the people of the territory know that you are taking them to war. Let it be known that war has consequences. Let it be known that war, as we have seen in other territories, can go on for 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, and you still not get your independence. If the people understand all of this and they say, yes, that's what we want, fine. It is
what does Resolution 1608 mean to British Cameroons?
Well, to begin with, thank you very much for coming and asking that question. UN Resolution 1608 subsection 15 recognized and accepted the plebiscite results of 11 February 1961. And it also recognized the fact that Southern Cameroons will achieve independence upon its joining the Republic of Cameroon. And point 5 of the resolution says the United Kingdom, as their administering authority, the Republic of Cameroon and Southern Cameroons should initiate measures and policies to implement UN Resolution 1608, which in effect said Southern Cameroons will achieve independence on the 1st of October upon its joining the Republic of Cameroon. That's in essence Resolution 1608 subsection 15.
Okay, I want to read portions of it. It's that section resolution 1608 says
Articles 2, 4 and 5. Sub 2, 4 and 5.
why should I only read 2 for sub 2?
If you can read all, fine.
No, I don't have sub 2. If you have it, we can read it. But
what A and B, those are the independence ones.
A and B, it says, no, I have 4. 4A says, with respect to Northern Cameroon, on 1st June 1961, upon its joining the Federation of Nigeria as a separate province of the northern region of Nigeria, what he said out there. This B says, with respect to Southern Cameroons, on 1st October 1961, upon its joining the Republic of Cameroon. Sub 5 says, invites the administering authority, which I'm sure the British, the government of Southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon to initiate urgent discussions with a view to finalizing before 1st October 1961 the arrangements by which the agreed and declared policies of the parties concerned would be implemented.
Mr. Leo, you didn't read all. well, I don't know if I'm the one who has the floor.
Yes, go on.
You see, 1608 Article 2A recognizes the independence of Northern Cameroons. B, that of Southern Cameroons. Now, the important part there is Article 4, which states that the parties having freely decided as to their future. The trusteeship agreement between the UN and Great Britain will come to an end in the following manner. And that is what introduces Article 5, which talks of what you just read. Now, that Article 4 spells out how the trusteeship agreement will come to an end and gives a mandate to Great Britain to oversee agreement between Republic of Cameroon and the government of Southern Cameroons to determine before the 1st of October 1961 how the agreed policies of the parties were going to be implemented. Now, at international law, there are so many things that come into play. Because when I hear people talking, I ask myself whether we're in a Njangi house. There are so many things that come into play. You are dealing first of all here with sovereign states. I hear some people talking of Southern Cameroon was not a state. They are dreaming. Article 2 recognizes the independence of Southern Cameroons. And Sub 5 talks of the government of Southern Cameroon. You don't have a government if you're not a country. The government of Southern Cameroon, the Republic of Cameroon, and the administrative authority, they have to come together. Now, this is an international arrangement, and if you want to put it in the concrete terms, let us go back to the 1996 Constitution that we have today.
Stop that since passing on.
The 1996 Constitution that we have today, all international agreements and treaties, once Cameroon ratifies them, they take precedence on our national laws. You see, so if this agreement were battered, it is an international agreement. It was supposed to be taken to the various assemblies, Southern Cameroons and Republic of Cameroon, to be ratified. Sir, I am telling you the position at law. I am giving you Article 45 of the current Constitution. That is what obtains. So if some people say there was no union treaty, I don't know whether they really look at their heads where. What is a treaty? What is a union? When 1608 Sub 5 says, come together and discuss the terms by which the agreements between the parties are going to be implemented. They're not talking about an agreement pertaining to a union? Is that not a union treaty? And if you do sign that treaty, what do you do for it to become valid? It has to respect the norms. It has to go to the assembly and be ratified before it can become law. But in this particular case, till today, that provision has not been satisfied up to today. That is the reason why when Dr. Muzo was talking, I was just asking myself many questions. He says UN does not have unfinished business. If UN prescribes a procedure that has not been carried out, is his business finished? UN said the trusteeship agreement will come to an end in the following manner. That manner has not been satisfied. Is their business over? They have to see to it that that business is over. I want to remind you that if you go to Nigeria, in the Nigerian courts, because people are playing with this, we are in a legal jungle here. In the Nigerian courts, they still take cognizance of the fact that their laws do apply to our area here. Look at our children who are going to law school. What laws do you think are applicable for them to be admitted? They are still applying those laws. Now, as we are talking 1608, Southern Cameroons had a constitution. It had a constitution. What became of it? That constitution put in place an assembly. That's why I say we have to read this thing within the context of the law. If you have a treaty between two states, that treaty has to follow the due process of law. If it is today, we shall send it to the parliament, and under Article 45, the parliament will.
Yeah, but what the prescriptions were that these two parties should go on with the negotiation on how they were to finalize.
I want you to remember one thing. 1608 came on the 23rd of April. Negotiations that Dr. Mungo was talking started in July. Fumban Cross was in July. So 1608 could not ask any person to continue any negotiation that was not existing. It could not. Because in April there were no negotiations. Fuban conference came in July. Yaoundé conference came in August. So what's he talking about? 1608 had nothing to do with any of those conferences. They did not ask anybody to continue anything.
Okay, let's get to Ndifor Richard. And Ndifor, you followed Dr. Simon Munzu and Professor Victor Julius Ngo, and now you just listened to Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel. Yes, your take.
Yes, Leonard. Unfortunately, I was not able to get Dr. Munzu and Professor Julius Ngo. The echoes, the sound did not reach me. But I want to react to Dr. Barister
Ashu Emmanuel.
Barister Ashu Emmanuel,
Senior Barrister.
When he started his intervention, he made some statements that I was really amazed about. I was pleased with that, and I thought he was going to follow through with that. And because he opened up by saying that the resolution is there, it's on pen and paper, it is down black and white, and not anybody can read the wordings. And I'm surprised that after the wordings are read to him, he starts saying something else which is completely out of what is on the paper. You see, what I want to say before I go ahead is to state that when it comes to history, history is history. There is no way we can twist the facts. The facts remain the fact. And when we come to law, I know he's dealing with law. The law says that the law as it is, the law is as it is, not as we wish it to be. And I think that on that premises, we should look at this thing with a lot of objectivity. We should try as much as possible to keep emotions aside. In as much as all of us would like it to be one way or the other, we should look at it the way as it is. Now, let me make a few pertinent points today. Barister Ashu made mention of, I saw him, he made mention of Article 2, and I would just like to go through Article 2 for the interest of our viewers, so that they should really put it in context. Article 2 states, endorses the result of the plebiscite that A, the people of the Northern Cameroon have, by a substantial majority, decided to achieve independence by joining the Independent Federation of Nigeria, and B, the people of the Southern Cameroon have similarly decided to achieve independence by joining the Independent Republic of Cameroon. It is as clear as it can be. I don't know what kind, directly following what that statement says. A, with respect to the Northern Cameroon on 1st June 1961, upon its joining the Federation of Nigeria as a separate province of the Northern region of Nigeria. And B, with respect to the Southern Cameroon on 1st October 1961, upon its joining the Republic of Cameroon. I think that is as clear as it can be. Southern Cameroons achieved its independence as per article, or as per resolution 1608, achieved its independence by joining. Southern Cameroon was not granted independence as a separate entity. It was granted independence with a condition. So it is very clear, Leonard, and if we go by Barister Ashu's own words, let us take the words as they are in the resolution, and we should not try to interpret and bring in, well, it's okay for you to interpret, but when you interpret, look at the wordings. Anybody who understands the English language very well will tell you that Article 1808 is in plain language, plain English. It doesn't complicate in any way. Southern Cameroon achieved its independence by joining.
Okay.
The British Northern Cameroon achieved its independence by joining Nigeria. So I want to appeal that we should stay within this course as we continue with our discussion.
Okay. Mofor George, you are following up, I'm sure. Ndifor Richard read through that resolution. I don't know where the problem is.
Now, Leo, and the problem is what we are having now in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, this is what intellectuals do. They will use logic, which at times is also using logic based on arguments which are, the average person will not make any sense out of it. You get out more confused when you were looking up to them for enlightenment. When you were introducing me, you say from the civil society. You know, that is a blanket language or blanket definition. Now, if you look at every state, there are 3 parameters. You have the economic, or they call it business society, if you like to call it that way, the political society, and the civil society. That is the triple balance that keeps a state moving. And the people who are fighting the war outside there, they are the people that they are deemed and called civil society. Because what are they reacting? They are reacting because politicians have not been able to deliver on their promises, and then the business people have used the failed political promises to exploit them. There is the rank and file. And then the only way that they can go out now to assert themselves is to go out to the street. Either they go out to the street, or they use the other negative strategy of force by doing armed robbery and some even causing other harms even from the family level. What am I trying to say? Law is about logic, and the logic at times becomes based on how, because again, when they say a lawyer is defending you, it is not defending you to prove most of the time that you are right. It is defending you to prove that there is logic in what they are saying in terms of justifying that you could do something, and then the judge will say, based on these mitigating circumstances, instead of punishing like this, will reduce the sentence, and so on and so forth. But I think again, there is, when let's go down to the literary manipulation here, there's what they call a pretext before a text, and then a post-text. You discover that within the context which is coming out after the pretext is that before the British or the United Nations decided to ask Southern Cameroon or the British Northern Cameroon to do what they had to do, was because there was a pretext. They discovered that these entities, as they were, the better choice offered to them was that they could only be what they could be by linking to either Nigeria or Cameroon. That was the pretext. Now the context was that by themselves, they discovered that they could not subsist and sustain themselves as independent entities. And that's why they couldn't impose that based on the ask now the opinion of the population. That's what makes a state. Some government, constitution, and the population. The population went into a plebiscite. And this is as a result of another condition that the United Nations gave out this territory as a trustee, which means it was said that keep in waiting, and we will determine in the future how they will determine where they want to go. I'm producing this now so that let us reduce it to the everyday language. When they say I trust some thing to you, it means that what? You pay it, you return it sometimes in the future. But the future now was not determined now upon a condition that I am giving you this thing back, but you have to link up with X or Y, or this is how you are going to use it. I'm borrowing you money, but this is the condition that you are going to use this money. Leo, let us not confuse the people there. I'm coming from an environment where there is a lot of challenges because of the fact that there are people who are shooting themselves, starving themselves, based on this argument that will come on television and confuse people rather than trying to make people understand that war by itself could at times be good, because when you are fighting for a just cause, you are looking for a reason to justify it so that tomorrow you become better, you don't go back to make the same error. But I think as far as we are concerned now, we should, at this point in time, not enhance more confusion by bringing what, because I didn't talk about now the post-text. There's no constitution that is like the 10 Commandments. It means that if something went wrong, based on that resolution, that's where I'm coming out to probably reinforce what Dr. Munzo was saying. That by itself, we have chosen to fight a war. But we could also use diplomacy within, and that's why I'm inviting the lawyers now, that use other advocacy, use other means to challenge the status quo by using the same institutional means, whether it's parliament or whatever thing. And then we will use that. Up to today, we are fighting for the past 5 years. We have never had any resolution, anything pushed through parliament. That is the institutional approach that we can get to go back to redesign a constitution that was approved, and we think that up to today is not moving very well. I'm happy when the barrister was talking and quoting the 1996 constitution. That is also quoting based on what happened in 1961. But at the end of the day, it confuses the average citizen listening to us there. So we should, and I really plead, that instead of us justifying or trying to justify who is wrong or who is right, in this case we are talking of a bigger picture. What are we going to do to stop the killing? That to me is the most important thing. It's not about text, because text can be changed, but you can never bring back a human being who is dead.
Okay. You also certainly have been following up with what is happening. Tah Marvis, is it that some people want to play over what is contained in this resolution? Do we really understand it?
Well, I'll take you back to the words of Fon Achirimbi when he said it would be unwise to follow the abandoned and unsecured vessel which do not give us free landing right at the horizon. And he also came and said French Cameroon is fire while Nigeria is water, during that period of debacle between deciding where and who will go. When we look at this context, Mr. Liu, in terms of your question, it takes us back to three things which is common in communication: selective exposure, selective retention, and selective absorption, where the different stakeholders decide on what to absorb, what to retain, and what to be exposed to. In context here, Mr. Liu, we are faced in a situation which many don't want to understand or claim not to understand, based on the reality on the ground and based on their personal interests. Because if you look at where we are coming from 1960, it will tell you that we had an identity crisis. An identity crisis is difficult to solve in situations where dishonesty and when hard policies are put in place. Remember that from the beginning of this conflict, if discussions like this were allowed, especially when it took up in 2017, a lot of people who would have been educated prior to when the armed conflict started. Because if you see what is happening now, is because some group of persons are not well informed, and they are only now being informed after it has entered in a difficult situation. Mr. Leo, this is where we are. People, the argument is centered on two things. One, that Southern Cameroon was a state. If you look at all what they're arguing for, some say no, it was not a state, others are saying it was a state. Two, another argument is coming that it never gained independence. A group of thought is saying that it never gained independence. A group of thought is saying it gained independence. Now, if you look at what the confusion at the resolution 1608 is based on these two analogy. One group is saying that if you look at gaining independence, they go and hang on gaining independence. The other group of thought is saying that by joining, that it was by joining, not independence. So this is where the argument is based. But how do we draw the line between these people who said independent and these people who said it was an association with French Cameroon and Nigeria, based on the northern part of Cameroon, which gave birth to the Federal Republic of Cameroon? The line can be drawn from a perspective of keeping aside the identity crisis, but looking at the general interest of this set of persons. What does an ordinary Southern Cameroonian or a Cameroonian want? It's good education, good legal system, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. What does the same person from East Cameroon want? The same thing. Now, if we had all these same values of freedom of communication, freedom of speech, development, I'm sure we would not have been at this position. All of them are fighting a conflict on one thing. They are fighting for interest. They want the interest of the people to be at stake. But the sad reality here is that they are taking extreme positions, and all parties have refused to shift from their positions to look at the interests of these same persons that they are fighting for. If you take us back to the 1996 Constitution, as Senior Barister Ashu is saying, that school of thought who says Southern Cameroon gained independence still have a stake in that constitution by telling you that the definition of a Cameroonian stems from someone who is either from Southern Cameroon by birth or someone who was born in the Republic of Cameroon. So that person will tell you that Southern Cameroon had existed before. And another issue by getting independent comes in with the aspect of the government. Resolution 1608 is creating more confusion because it talked about the government of Southern Cameroon and the government of French Cameroon. Now, it actually, the question Dr. Munzu said last time here that there was no that Southern Cameroon was not a territory on its own. But the question that a common man will say, have there been a state, a government function in a state, that how come we have this government that will negotiate with this government? So you see that nuance in the resolution 1608 is being caused by the UN. And you asked a question to Dr. Munzu last time as to who voted, who changed the vote, I think, on those who wanted that Southern Cameroon should have their independence. I'm sure you asked a question last time that there was a certain vote that the percentage of people who said it should have an autonomous independence. Okay. So if you look at this issue, the nuance is coming because the UN itself was not just, because the commission that was sent to come and observe if Southern Cameroon was ripe for independence created this confusion that we are facing today. Because if they were just by saying yes or no, above all, I want us to look at historical facts very well. History is written by those who lived the reality and read by those who are currently living. Now, in terms of historical fact, it will tell you that both sides have ideological conflict. Ideological conflict in terms of the laws cannot be harmonized, because someone in Southern Cameroon was Nigerian newspaper ordinance law in 1917, which became applicable in Cameroon. The French was 1881, which became applicable in 1929, under which Mbale newspaper was banned, that did not give freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So if you look at this harmonization very well, where libel and sedition you could still publish in British Southern Cameroon, and so that nuance of identity conflict, I think that is still an issue that we have to observe. But again, we need political education for people to be educated as of what is really happening within the territory.
Okay, within the territory, I'll still stay with you, Senior Barister. This resolution, it's how important is it to what we are facing today? We went past the plebiscite. There was the reunification, the referendum. We have had lots and lots of things. Today, should we still be talking about resolution 1608 after?
Mr. Leo, my good friend here just mentioned something which I think I have to touch a bit before coming to your answer.
Who's that?
My good friend, Mr.
Tah Marvis, yeah.
He talked of an identity crisis. And if I'm not mistaken, it looks like he was doubting the existence of Southern Cameroons before.
No, I'm not that. I'm just saying that's an identity crisis where some people feel like I am from this, and
I want to remind you, Mr. Tah, that Southern Cameroons was a state. Southern Cameroons was the first African state that had the first democratically elected government. They tested statehood before the Republic of Cameroon, which became a state in 1958, if you want to remember well. Now, in are you surprised? Now, in 1960, before even we were going to the UN, Southern Cameroon was erected into an independent province within the Federation of Nigeria by the British. And that is the reason why the British gave Southern Cameroons a constitution that put in place all the organs of the state. So people who are making noise should better go back and look at their history well before talking. Southern Cameroon did not come from the sky. It is a state that has gone down in history in Africa as the first state to have a democratically elected government. So when people are talking, no, yes, truly. The government that was led by Ndeli.
Okay.
Dr. Ndeli.
He was the first president of Southern Cameroon.
It was a prime minister, not president.
Okay.
So when they start asking who is president, we did not have a presidential regime. The queen is just the same system that the Canadians have, that the English have. It is the queen who is up there and the prime minister is walking down there. So they should not be confused. Southern Cameroon was a state before even the Republic of Cameroon. And we have tested statehood, and we're coming now to the UN 1608. There was no mistake. And like Tah was saying, there was no mistake. The people said the government of they were negotiating with who? They were negotiating with the government of Southern Cameroon. There is no problem, sir. Now let me tell
I'm
you.
not saying that is the problem. I'm not saying that is where the problem started.
Let me come to something, because you see, many people refuse to update. They remain inside their primary school history books. They refuse to update. In 1960, when the UN was granting independence to many countries, they had a problem of territories that could manage themselves and territories that could not manage themselves. They came out with this resolution 1541 that was meant for territories that were non-self-governing. Southern Cameroons could not fall under that territory, that resolution, because it was a self-governing territory. Now, Northern Cameroons was not self-governing. That's why you see they say Northern Cameroon become independent as an independent province, within the Federation of Nigeria. It's not the same with Southern Cameroons. You see, because Southern Cameroon was a self-governing state.
Okay. Let's take a listen to Professor Victor Julius Ngo elaborate on where these controversies are coming from.
Become so controversial today?
Well, I think it's the bottom line is that Cameroonians, in their vast majority, and especially Anglophones, given the outbreak of the Anglophone crisis, have all become historians, political historians, constitutional historians, constitutional lawyers. And that's the problem we have. They have distorted Resolution 1608, and they have become so emotional, so to the extent that they want to believe what they want to believe, and they insist that others should believe what they say, and that's the problem we have. Resolution 1608 subsection 15 is clear. It did not grant Southern Cameroon separate independence. So those who call for the restoration of Southern Cameroon's independence based on Resolution 1608, they are deceiving the public, deceiving Cameroonians. Secondly, Resolution 1608 did not say Southern Cameroon achieved independence before reuniting with the Republic of Cameroon. There is nothing as restoring our independence. Southern Cameroon did not get independence before negotiating for reunification. And it is also important to make it clear. There are other schools which wrongly say the so-called reunification between the Republic of Cameroon and Southern Cameroon is null and void because UN Article 102, 103 specify in essence that any international agreement or treaty between states, between member states, must be registered and deposited at the Secretariat of the UN. Of course, it is true. But they fail to make Cameroonians and Anglophones especially understand that Article 102 talked of UN member states. UN member states. Southern Cameroon was not a UN member state. The Republic of Cameroon was a member. The Republic of Cameroon became a member of the UN in September 1960. So if at all any country had to invoke Article 102, it should be the Republic of Cameroon, because the Republic of Cameroon was a member. Southern Cameroon could not, and before nowadays, should not deceive the public that they are trying to invoke Article 102. Southern Cameroon was not, I repeat, not a member of the UN during the period under in discussion. And so,
Okay, you come in very briefly, then we move over to
Ndifor. Yes, Mr. Leo. You see, after Professor Julius, I think this thing has to be really clarified. Was there reunification? Was there reunification between Southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon? When you look at those who are supporting what the government is doing, they will tell you that the plebiscite was reunification. And that is the reason why today Plebiscite Day is celebrated as Youth Day, because they consider the Plebiscite Day as the reunification day. But the UN said no. After the plebiscite, we have to finish. We have to clear the table by dealing with this question of trusteeship, and that is why they came up on the 21st of April with 1608. Now, when they asked that the parties should sit on the table, I said earlier that Southern Cameroon was an independent province within the Federation of Nigeria with its own constitution, which I showed you here one day. The Republic of Cameroon also had its own constitution with its own government. And the UN said the government of Southern Cameroon, the Republic of Cameroon, and Great Britain sit on the table. That was the reason why Aïdjo called Foncha and they went to Fumban. Nothing came out of it. They went to Yaoundé. Now this is the point. Instead of signing the Union Treaty, we have a problem here because Dr. Victor Julius Ngo, Professor Julius Ngo, seems to say that there is a problem with that unification, which is true because you find one country, the 1961 Constitution, the Constitution of 1st September 1961, was an act of the Republic of Cameroon's Assembly alone. Southern Cameroon did not participate in that constitution at all. So this is what we have here as a problem. Two states want to come together. One of them calls its assembly and enacts a constitution that it now applies to both states. That is the problem. You see, that federal constitution was the job of the Parliament of the Republic of Cameroon alone. Southern Cameroon had nothing to do with it. So as of today, Cameroon is in a legal jungle. Because if you look at that constitution, there is nothing inside it that should make it applicable to Southern Cameroon. Nothing. Because we have the Southern Cameroon constitution. There is nothing that has invalidated it. It is still valid up to today. So, can the Parliament of the Republic of Cameroon cancel the acts of the Queen of England, who enacted the Southern Cameroon Constitution? The answer is no.
Okay.
So we are saying that 1608 has its full weight, because that is what would have enabled the parties to sit on the table and come together now with a common ground, with common legislation that would have been common to the Republic of Cameroon and to Southern Cameroons. Okay, but they preferred to sideline Southern Cameroonians and enact a law that they are now applying on Southern Cameroonians.
And Ndifor Richard, you are a history teacher. You have read through what is happening. I don't know whether what Senior Barister is saying, that what obtained in Southern Cameroon still holds water as we speak within the framework of the government of Cameroon as it stands today.
Thank you so much, Leo. Senior Barrister Ashu is somebody I hold in high esteem, and I'm trying as much as possible to remain very respectful to his views, but I want us to stay within the context of facts. You see, Barrister Ashu is making a lot of statements that doesn't seem to hold water. He's talking about the decision that was arrived at the London Constitutional Conference of 1954. And he's trying to switch that around to make it look like it was some kind of independence that was granted to Southern Cameroons in 1954, which is not the case. You see, in 1953, after the Eastern Regional Crisis in Nigeria, and Southern Cameroonians, with the leadership of India, decided to cut off links with Nigeria. When they held this conference in London, Southern Cameroon was granted some kind of a quasi-regional status. That is to say, Southern Cameroon was given a status of a region when Southern Cameroon, I want us to put this thing in context. Southern Cameroon was administered as a part of Nigeria. And being administered as a part of Nigeria, Southern Cameroon was administered as part of a region of Nigeria because Nigeria had three regions: the northern regions, the southern regions, and the eastern regions. Southern Cameroon, the eastern regions, the northern region, and the western region. Southern Cameroon was administered as part of the eastern region of Nigeria. These regions, if we go by what Barister Ashu is saying, then you will be telling us that those different regions in Nigeria were independent states, which is not true. They were not independent states. Southern Cameroon was administered as a part of the eastern region of Nigeria, and Southern Cameroon politicians have been clamoring for a separate and autonomous region for Southern Cameroon. And that is what they were granted in 1954, and that is what Barister Ashu is trying to make you understand, that it was independence that was granted to British Southern Cameroon, or that Southern Cameroon was granted some kind of a state. I don't even make sense in what Barister Ashu is trying to explain there. It's a little bit more very confusing to me what he's trying to explain. But I want to be very clear that Southern Cameroon had never been an independent territory before 1961. Whatever Southern Cameroonian was still a trust territory under the United Nations Organization and under the supervision of the United Nations Organization and under the control of Britain. Barister he also made mention of something. He also made mention of the fact that Article 1608 in its Resolution 1608 in its Article 4A refers to Nigeria as joining, refers to British Northern Cameroon as joining Nigeria as a separate province, and does not do the same for Southern Cameroon, which makes Southern Cameroon be an independent territory. No, that is not true. The fact here is that British Northern Cameroon had established an agreement as to the form in which they are going to join Nigeria prior to them joining Nigeria. And the form was that they were supposed to be a separate state, a separate province, by the time they joined Nigeria. That was an arrangement that British Southern Cameroon failed to make prior to joining La République du Cameroon. And that is why in Article 5 of that resolution, they call on both parties to sit down and work a way of coming together, of a way of how the union between British Southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroon will be. That is what Article 5 is stating. And both parties, British Southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroon, should work out a way of how the two territories will, the union between the two territories is going to be. And that is why all this decision leading to the negotiation in Fuman and all of that, that is why all of that took place. There is nothing, I repeat, there is nothing like there was a Southern Cameroon states prior to 1961. There was nothing like that. Yes, there was an autonomous region of Southern Cameroon which had a premier, which was Ndele and later on Foncha, but that in no way was independent. If Barister Ashu insists that it was a separate state with its own constitution, then we will not need to be going to the UN again to be talking about Resolution 1808, Resolution 1608, which is what they have for long been holding on to claim that that resolution granted Southern Cameroon independence. Resolution 1608 came in 1961. Southern Cameroon could not have had independence before 1961, and then Resolution 1608 is granting the independence again in 1961. That is with that kind of confusion, you will get the point that a lot of people are trying to mix up facts here. The fact is clear. Leonard. Southern Cameroons got its independence by joining La République du Cameroon. We should establish that and stay within that. If we have other arguments to make, arguments should be on the fact that the UN, by organizing the plebiscite and letting Southern Cameroons go into this plebiscite without maybe a third option, was violating violating the terms of the trusteeship agreement, because the terms of the trusteeship agreement was clear. It states that Southern Cameroon, like La République du Cameroon or French Cameroon, should be prepared for self-government. That is what the UN failed to do. The terms of the trusteeship agreement did not say Southern Cameroon should be prepared towards reunification. It stated that it should be prepared towards self-government. And that is where they failed. And that is what we should be talking about. If we are talking about what happened in 1961, it is clear that Southern Cameroon was not granted independence as a separate entity.
Professor Victor Julius Ngo says there that the problem is that almost everybody is becoming an expert in constitutional history.
Look, I mean, like my role here is probably advocating now for the rank and file.
Mm-hmm. The civil society.
Leo, 1st of January 1960, La République du Cameroun got her independence from France.
Mm-hmm.
In September, they joined the United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
What is the same argument? These are all what we call territories, which were all trust territories because they were all parcels that were taken away from the Germans and given to both the French and the British to administer and prepare for independence. Now, if the French part, the French granted independence to one part, their own part, on the 1st of January 1960, and that part took the liberty to seek for membership in the UN in September. Could we say the same thing, that there was ever a period whereby, like we are hearing the narrative here, that Southern Cameroon was an independent state or had the constitution and what it takes for it to qualify it as a state? The logic would have pushed further that by having that independent status, just like the French Cameroon had from France, what stopped them then from seeking membership into the UN? You see, this is, like I said, I'm not interested in jingoism, the type of barbarism that we are going to use language here to confuse the average person there. Because people are suffering and dying outside there because of this type of big confusion that I mean, let us stay on the premise. A country, a territory founded by, according to European history, that the Portuguese discovered a certain place they call Rio de Cameros, and then the Germans and the British, or the Germans took over from it right up to 19-something, and then they went to a war, and then they were defeated, and then they seized those that they are part of their territory, just like they seized Togo and the other places. Togo, I'm not sure Togo is bigger than what they call the territory of Southern Cameroon. Togo also got her independence from France, and then they joined the United Nations. The same thing, the same argument that happened, the same Southern Cameroon that, quote unquote, was a British trust territory. We are told here that they were independent before joining. Why did they join instead of stopping at independence and then going now to seek for membership into the UN? Was it the stupidity of the politicians of Southern Cameroon then? Was it the love for bilingualism and so forth and so? Let us, we get ourselves mixed up, and I'm saying that, please, let the historians, let the constitutional lawyers, let all of these persons actually consider the suffering masses outside there when we are putting up this argument. It's better to have a bad peace than a good war.
Okay. Yes.
I'm sure Mofor just laid the premise clear for everybody to see. All the historians, the legal minds should see, which is this. If French Cameroon got their independence from 1st of January 1960, and by September they joined the United Nations, the big question mark is what is happening at the territory of Southern Cameroon. because if it was that issue there which states that it was a territory as part of French Cameroon, definitely they would have worked together on that 1st of January. But since it was both territory they were trustship from trust territory from British controlled areas and France controlled areas, it therefore means that there was that kind of an autonomy, like it was a state which was I don't know whether I put it a territory which was ripe for its independence. That's why it never joined French Cameroon on that 1st of January 1960. As Ndifor Richard equally made it clear that both territories where the UN had a mandate to prepare both territory for independence. But the problem where we are today is simply because of the fact that the UN trusteeship mandate was not respected. It wasn't respected by the UN itself. And I buy Senior Barister Ashu's position that UN has unfinished business. Because if you are talking about the law itself as it is, then Ndifor Richard will accept with us that UN still have unfinished business because it violated its trusteeship mandate by not granting Southern Cameroon its independence. Based on the fact that Togo had its independence, the Republic of Cameroon had its independence. Now, where are we? Where do I want to settle? I want to settle on
the UN in Cameroon's case did not grant independence to French Cameroon. The French granted independence to French Cameroon, and French Cameroon went to seek admission into the UN. This is clear now. This is
I'm not refusing.
So when you say the UN did not grant independence, it was like UN granted independence to La République, and they did not grant independence to Southern Cameroon. This is now a twist of process.
Well, maybe what I'm saying here is that I'm taking from what you people are saying. I'm not saying the ordinary. I'm just using. I'm not adding. I'm not subtracting.
You are entitled to.
I'm just using what you people are saying. Maybe the other panelists continue.
No, it's your view. You're entitled to your view.
I'm just saying that based on what I am hearing from the on the ground, this is what I see from the logical perspective. But my position on this matter is that regardless of where we stand, we should look at the interest of the common man. Because both are fighting for the interest of the common man, and the interest of the common man is that the war should end, peace should come. So regardless of how we take it,
okay.
So you should not judge me based on my analysis. I'm talking what I'm saying.
Okay, you're talking based on what you are saying. You should have read before coming on.
But I read. I'm quoting what the others are saying now.
No, it's not from opinions from. I'm sure people. Let us go over to Buea again and listen to Professor Victor Julius Ngo, looking at it from the international perspective. Can we say this is an international issue or a Cameroonian affair?
The next point is that resolution 1602 was not complied with because the United Kingdom, the Republic of Cameroon, and Southern Cameroon were called upon to initiate policies and measures which will ultimately lead to the implementation of what Article 1602 called for, that is the independence of Southern Cameroon upon its joining the Republic of Cameroon. It is true, because I've been made to understand, and I've read some articles saying that since there was an international responsibility, there's supposed to be an international agreement or something of the sort, call it agreement or legal instrument sanctioning the outcome of the measures and policies. But it should be made very, very clear. The discipline of history benefits a lot from the discipline of law, and discipline of law benefits a lot from the discipline of history. Why I'm saying this is, if you understand the way events evolve, then you can understand why in certain circumstances what is supposed to have been a legal outcome will no longer be valid. Why I'm saying this is because in the course of initiating the measures and policies required by resolution 1608. During that period, the Republic of Cameroon under Amadou Ahidjo and Southern Cameroons under John Richard made it clear on several occasions that this issue of independence of Southern Cameroons is a Cameroonian affair and should be decided only by Cameroonians. And I say this with all sincerity and honesty. I do understand that those who want to distort or look for excuses will leave out the substance and start running after the shadow. At the Fuman conference, John Ndifor Richard made it clear in his opening statement, it would be foolish to look for help elsewhere. What he meant was that the drawing up of the Constitution was a Cameroonian affair and should be decided only by Cameroonians. Earlier, Amadou Ahidjo had also stated that this is a Cameroonian affair, should be decided by Cameroonians. During the Yaoundé tripartite talks of August 1961, Amadou Ahidjo and Foncha met between the 2nd of August to the 5th of August 1961 and took decisions which more or less indicated that the Republic of Cameroon and French Cameroon, the Republic of Cameroon and Southern Cameroon were speaking with one voice. They behaved as if they had formed one delegation. I say this because on the 5th of August 1961, when the Yaoundé tripartite talks now became, in essence, in actual fact, the tripartite talks with the inclusion of the UK delegation led by Christopher Eastwood. Ahidjo, speaking with the support of Foncha, told the UK delegation, we have already agreed on the draft constitution. We have already agreed, which meaning that the Republic of Cameroon and Southern Cameroon took that decision in the absence of the United Kingdom delegation, because both Ahidjo and Foncha on separate occasions had said this is a Cameroonian affair and should be decided only by Cameroonians. And when Ahidjo told the UK delegation, we have agreed on the draft constitution, the UK delegation did what? Took note of it. And in the course of the Yaoundé tripartite talks, the three parties, the United Kingdom, the Republic of Cameroon and Southern Cameroon, agreed that the transfer of sovereignty will be through exchange of notes. And the exchange of notes or exchange of letters is one of three principles, one of three methods that countries achieve independence, that countries get their sovereignty. That is independence agreement, signing of independence agreement, or proclamation of independence bill. So you have a situation where the two main countries concerned, the Republic of Cameroon and Southern Cameroon, decided to do what they felt was in their interest, in their common interest. This is our affair, our Cameroonian affair. We are the ones to decide. So you should not, nobody in his right mind would have turned around and said, no, we must give a report to the UN and get the blessing of the UN. The principal parties concerned have said, this is what we want to, this is how we want to do it. And at the end of the tripartite talks, the official communique made it clear that all what they discussed at the Yaoundé tripartite talks was in line with UN Resolution 1608. The United Kingdom was present, of course. The Republic of Cameroon was present, and Southern Cameroon was present. On the 27th of September 1961, because at the tripartite talks they had agreed that a transfer of sovereignty will be done through exchange of notes, the British ambassador in Yaoundé, His Excellency Cecil Edward King, sent a note to the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Amadou Ahidjo, to the Cameroon Foreign Minister, acknowledging what they have done so far and saying, making it clear that it was in line with Resolution 1608. The Republic of Cameroon replied to Amadou Ahidjo, to the British government, to the Cameroon Foreign Minister and the British ambassador, also recognizing the fact that what they have done is in line with 1608. If the parties concerned say this is what we have done, who then should come and say, no, please, you must have an international agreement or legal instrument? And to reinforce that point, on the 27th of February 1962, the United Kingdom officially informed the United Nations that we successfully terminated our trusteeship administration over Southern Cameroon on the 1st of October 1961, midnight 30th September 1961. The Republic of Cameroon did not object. Southern Cameroon, at that time West Cameroon, did not object. So this whole thing of insisting that there should be a legal instrument because 30 countries were involved, it was an international agreement. Yes, but at the end of the day, along the way, the two main parties concerned, the Republic of Cameroon and Southern Cameroon, said, please, this is a Cameroonian affair.
Okay, you have taken notes there. That is Professor Victor Ngo. I'm sure we are going to have a series of this on this resolution 1608, because I'm reading a lot of persons on social media not very comfortable with some of the arguments put forward. Please, I said, I'm sure on my Facebook page last week, I said I was expecting people to accept to be part of this debate so that we can clarify, because we are doing this in the interest of the people like Mofor Geoge keep saying.
Yeah, Mr. KUM, you see, many of our children, many of us, mm-hmm. and even our children have been miseducated. When some people hear me say Southern Cameroon had a constitution, they are surprised. So please try to correct your education. I am not telling lies. I'm speaking out of facts. I have the constitution. If you want, I will give it to Mr. KUM. He will show you. He will publish it so that you see. Southern Cameroon had a constitution that was enacted by the Queen of England in 1960. And if Mr. what they call Mr. Ndifor, it is not my fault. He's a historian, but he doesn't want to read history. It is not my fault that he doesn't know that Southern Cameroon was an independent province within the Federation of Nigeria before 1961. It's not my fault. But that was it. It was by virtue of that independent province status that a constitution was given to Southern Cameroons. Now, when we come to what I heard Professor Victor Julius Ngo talking there, in fact, I don't know where we are going to. This is a case where the United Nations prescribed in 1608/5 that an agreement be battered between three parties. That prescription was in writing. I hear a learned professor saying that the parties agreed. He was short of saying verbally.
No, he said
he was short of saying
about a note.
He was short of saying verbally. You say, look, we don't have to look at this with sentiments. If there is a written prescription, the enforcement of that prescription has to be in writing. And I want to agree with people who invoke Article 102 of the UN Charter. It is correct. If the UN has prescribed something, you have to enforce it and file it with the UN. You see, it is but normal. Otherwise, the UN will not have any means of finding out or controlling whether the manner you enforced its prescriptions. You see, they say, Britain, the government of Southern Cameroon and Republic of Cameroon, please come together and agree. You cannot agree verbally. Otherwise, they would have told them verbally. And I am saying that this is international law. Because when that type of situation arises, it is an international agreement. Because those who were trying to fool themselves that there was no state, my friend Tah Marvis reminded them that today like this, the division of Cameroonian.
Let's say somebody from South
that had its independence. On the 1st of October 1961. Another ambit of the unfinished business of the UN. Why would the UN recognize Southern Cameroon's independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon without admitting Southern Cameroon as a member state? Why? That is also an unfinished business because they have recognized Southern Cameroon's independence.
But do you see the UN interested in coming
Please, sir,
to finish?
We are saying that it is their unfinished business because what is the purpose of recognizing the independence? If you say this is an independent state, it means that it is you have recognized them. It is one of your member states. So they ought to give Southern Cameroons a UN membership place. They ought to. It's an unfinished business. You see, I am saying that the agreements that Professor Julius was invoking there,
those meetings
cannot. They don't go to anywhere because all what he's saying, he is saying those things verbally. There is nothing in writing. What we have in writing is a constitution dated 1st of September 1960, Cameroon House of Assembly. Can he explain to me why Southern Cameroon, whereas Southern Cameroon had a House of Assembly, a bicameral House of Assembly, why was Southern Cameroon's Assembly not associated with that constitution in the enacting of that constitution? Why was Foncha even not in the know? Because what he's not saying is that Ahidjo gave that constitution to Foncha to sign. Foncha refused. He said he was sending it to the British, which he did. And you see, in 4 months, the British were not there. When Foncha gave the British that project, the British came to Yaoundé. They attended the Yaoundé constitution.
Yeah, but that's what he said.
They attended the talks.
He even called the name of the person.
He is trying to say there was something that was agreed. What is the thing? Verbally?
Yeah, but I think for
we need an instrument, a legal instrument. There was none.
For better clarifications, there are many things that Professor Victor Julius Ngo raised that at the end of certain meetings they came up with a communique. I would really love to. I'll go down to Boya to meet him to see if I can find some.
Mr. Leo, a communique at law has no legal foundation.
No, at least.
What is a communique?
No, at least.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot. States cannot be asked to come.
No, I'm not saying. Please,
you go make communique.
Senior Barister, I'm not.
It has no.
A minute has a legal backing in court. A minute up to a meeting.
A minute.
Yes.
It depends on what you have in front of you. If you are talking about associations,
Barister,
Mjangi meetings. Good. Yes.
Barister.
Meetings of a company.
Barister. Tomorrow we can use all the legal.
Excuse me. Minutes are different from communicate. Communicate is not minutes.
Let's.
What's all communicate? Don't bring minutes. Minutes are different.
You must have had he could have wanted to say minute and said communicate. Now let me say this.
But he told you communicate.
Whatever. Communicate to summarize minutes.
And notes. Yeah.
And the issue here, history is written low. So when you take the other parties and do an investigation, you get a history. But this is what I want to say, which probably could be also give credence to some of the arguments which I don't support, but it could give a support to his argument. I mean, the senior barrister. You see, the United Nations is like a double-head snake. I'm talking of evidence. You see, I asked my last intervention, I was asking the question. A country is granted independence by another country.
By France.
No, that was a procedure before then. I want to build up an argument. They granted an independence to another country, and that country willy-nilly went now and got membership to the UN, which probably is a bilateral type of thing. Now, the other thing which is also happening, this is where now the people who are fighting for independent, what they call Amazonia. What is going to happen? It is going to be what happened in Sudan. Sudan had independence as one country, and then subsequently another group said they were marginalized, they were ostracized, all of that. And then they went now and fought for what I was for 30 to 40 years. Then the UN now came in now with all the other things, and now granted independence to Southern Sudan, just like they did with the East Timor and those other places. What am I saying here? It is that at some point, the UN can also come in based on that. They have discovered that the internal dynamics, the two parties cannot find a common ground. Then they use now, whether they are talking about mediation or whatever, I say, what is the common outcome that we can accept now that this, for peaceful coexistence, let these two persons who have been fighting live apart. But the question now is, can we transpose the case of Sudan to Cameroon? Because that is what now build up to a legal argument that we will now have to integrate the bullshit that Cameroon, as it exists today, is a united, based on what you call it, united decentralized country based on their current constitution. And you see, Leo, this thing is just going back to remind us of what always happened after every election in this country, especially presidential election. Before people go into the elections, the laws are very, very clear. The electoral code is clear. But hardly have we ever had any elections in this country that we don't see people start coming with all type of legal argument and all of that, and in most cases it's always business as usual, because the Constitutional Court or the Supreme Court or whoever sits there will say that the argument was admissible or inadmissible, and they give hopes and false hope to the gullible people. They go to the street and start marching, and some are gunned down by bullets and all of that. I am saying that, and Mofor said it, that as it exists at this point T, for Southern Cameroon to get its independence is going to be an internal affair, which is going to be by war and not by diplomacy. Which means we are going to fight and kill ourselves unto a point where the United Nations will say, now this is now too much. Can we now come in now for mediation? Then we now, and you know, I've been asking this question every day to my friends who are really talking with this type of verve and vigor. I said, okay, you have had independence now. What next? What next? Because you are burning the bridges that you are going to use in your independent country. You are stopping children from going to school in your independent country. You are stopping women from cultivating in their farms in your independent countries. So we should be able to refer and look at the context. I was talking about pretext, context, and post-text. Look at what is happening in another country that called itself South Sudan. Do you think that the United Nations is happy that they actually granted independence to that country when they see the type of carnage that's going on in that country? Because it is not always good that what is seemingly good. You know, in 1993, you introduced me as one of the people who participated in the Anglophone Conference in 1993. The same power frontier, Amuna, they came there. What did they say? They accepted that they went into this thing and they negotiated in good faith, thinking that the other party was going to accept.
So there was a negotiation.
Not agreement, not negotiation, agreement.
That's what they said.
That's what Pathfinder said in AAC1 in Boya. I was live present. I was in charge of secretariat.
So,
in Boya,
Senior Vice
in Boya, I am saying that whoever wants to argue this, he was in Boya. They were in Boya in 1993. So let us be clear. We are saying this because my own perspective. I'm saying that the people who are fighting outside there.
Which means that what you are saying ties with what
of
course said, yeah.
Of course. The problem then.
Meetings were held.
Doesn't tie.
The problem in this issue is our
respect of what was agreed upon.
Well, that's another argument for another day.
Yeah.
But the point I'm saying that when we said that the country did not agree to live together, that's another. It did, and Foncha said they were doing all of that in good faith that the other party, based on what was presented, will be respected.
Okay, Ndifor Richard, can you come in there? Certainly you followed most of what has been said, but Professor Victor Julius Ngo was insisting on the fact that it is an internal affair that needs a Cameroonian solution. We don't have sound from your end. Seemingly you touched something. We can't get your sound.
Can you get me now, Leonard?
Okay, yes. Go on.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was saying that that is what the United Nations organizations have been saying, and even the African Union. They made a resolution and sent to the government of Cameroon. But basically, what I would like to say is that, just taking from where Mr. Mofor ended, says that all of these things will depend on good faith. And this good faith also comes from we know all the facts in history, Professor Julius Ngo has enumerated all those facts and all of that. Yeah, we know all the facts. But when you have a nation and you see that the nation is burning, you have to sit down and ask yourself, where did things go wrong? What happened here? What happened there? How can we redress this issue? How can we come back and sit on the table and redress this issue? In doing that, I think what Professor Julius Ngo is trying to do, and what I myself, I agree with him and I'm trying to do, is that while we try to solve the problem, we cannot solve the problem by being emotional, by distorting historical facts. We cannot solve the problem by trying to exaggerate things that did not really exist. We have to admit the way things were. The way the laws that were made at the time, the resolutions that were taken at the time, what they were, we have to agree on that. When we agree on that, we now look at where we went wrong. And one of the places where we start, where the entry point will be at Fumban. In Fumban, there were a lot of things that went wrong in Fumban. A lot of things. Example, in Fumban, by the time the Southern Cameroonians came to Fumban, for a negotiation with La République du Cameroon, they came with a draft proposal to make proposals to their brothers based on the fact that they can negotiate. But when they came, they met French Cameroon's delegation with a clearly written constitution. It was an already written constitution. They did not come with a proposal. That was an example of bad faith. Again, even with all the discrepancies and all the weaknesses of the Fumban Conference, a lot of other things happened from the Fumban Conference that if they had been respected to the latter, we would not have been where we are today. One of these is the fact that in Fumban they agreed on the basis of a federal system of government. Somehow Ahijo right in Fumban did not even believe in that federal system of government himself. He himself did not believe, because a few days after the union between the two territories were established, he started putting in place policies that was only geared towards weakening the state of West Cameroon and giving him a lot judgment to say that, oh, see, this federal system of government thing is not working, and so we should dissolve it. And by dissolving the federal system of government itself, it was also not only a bad faith, but a violation of resolutions that were taken at the Fumban Conference. Resolution 40 in Article 43 of the Fumban Constitution stated that no amendment of the Constitution, any amendment of the Constitution or proposal for the amendment of the Constitution that will impair the federal structure of the Union should be inadmissible. But Ahidjo went ahead. A lot of people are arguing that it was the sovereign will of the people to organize the referendum, but we understand how the so-called referendum was organized. We understand the mafia that surrounded the referendum, the fake referendum that was organized, and one-sided referendum cannot be said to be a sovereign decision of the people. And that is where we start having all of this problem. Going further, Leonard, if you permit me, going further, other decisions that were taken. For example, in Fumban, it was agreed upon that the constitutional heir to the President of the Republic was to be the Prime Minister, and was to be the Vice President, so to speak. And the Vice President at the time was a Southern Cameroonian or an English-speaking Cameroonian. But by 1975, things were being done in a way as if they wanted to make sure that Southern Cameroonians do never ever emerge to the position of the President of the Republic. And that is why in 1975 they changed the Constitution and say that the constitutional heir to the President will be the Speaker. And then later on they changed it to say the constitutional heir will be the Vice President or the Prime Minister. And at that time when they made it the Prime Minister, they replaced Foncha, or they replaced Muna with Tobia in preparation to make him the constitutional heir. And then later again, they started another massive idea when they had to change the name of the country to moving it from the Central Republic of Cameroon to the United Republic of Cameroon, then to La République du Cameroun. And the question is, where is Southern Cameroon in that La République du Cameroun, given that in 1961 they both agreed to give up their name, the Federal Republic, the Southern Cameroon, La République du Cameroon was given up, and they adopted a single name, the Federal Republic of Cameroon. What happened? That they not adopt La République du Cameroon. So logically people could say that La République du Cameroon seceded from the Union and absorbed Southern Cameroon.
Ndifor Richard, we are out of time. Another program is coming up live after this edition of the program. We just want to say thank you for, we have to end here, sorry. We started very late. Another program is coming up. Thank you for coming, Mr. Mofor.
Thank you, Leo. And I want to actually call on the people who are actually out there in the field, that I think we have demonstrated resilience a lot. And I want to also assure them that even the most devastated war that happened after Germany invaded Poland and led to the Second World War, which was fought for 6 years, led to a very high rate of development of Europe today. I hope that as we are going to be hoping that this war is going to come to an end, that will mark also a mass and big development in the southwest and the northwest region.
Okay, we equally want to say thank you for coming. Tamai.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, and I want to say that from what we've seen as conclusive statement, it does mean that if the agreements were respected at Fumban, will not be where we are. The problem is just the level of the agreement being respected. And a good evening to all those of the Catholic University of Boya, and we want to see we have a Bonaberi campus now at the Catholic University of Boya.
Thank you for coming, Senior Barister. I hope that we are going to have another edition to.
Thank you, Mr. KUM. the truth has to be said. There was nothing signed at Fuman. There was no agreement at Fuman. And Mr. Foncha said, I was also at AAC, he said, he produced a letter that he wrote to Ahijo in 1963 asking him when they were going to sign the Union Treaty. So he was still believing, and said, we have to have the letter. 1963, he was asking Ahijo, when are we signing the Union Treaty? You see, the state that they agreed to create was supposed to be called the Federal United Republic of Cameroon. That was the name of the country. You see, Ahijo dodged around and ended up. When you listen to Mr. Ndifor, the draft that Ahijo had, that was what he sent to his parliament. Did not include Foncha's ideas inside.
Ndifor Richard, we are very grateful for your participation in today's edition of the program.
Thank you so much, Leonard. I want to appeal that while we wished whatever we are wishing, we should stay within the ambit of the facts. We should stay within the facts. And I also want to appeal that whatever the case, the government of Cameroon should ensure that we get back to the drawing board, we sit down and talk about the future of this country, because no country can be built on falsehood.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Leonard, and I hope to be part of the program again next time.
Okay, definitely you are going to be there next week when we constitute another panel to look into this very controversial resolution, UN resolution. We want to say thank you to the production team and to you all who took time off to watch the program. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
To study abroad for your post-secondary or postgraduate studies? Stand a chance to win a $1,000 or $500 tuition fee scholarship. Attend the Harvest Field Education Virtual Fair on Saturday, the 1st of May from 4 to 8 p.m. West Africa time. Meet reps from top institutions in Canada, the UK, Ireland, and the USA. Chat, download their materials, and upload your credentials for immediate assessment. Access is free, but registration is compulsory. Visit harvestfieldedu.vfairs.com to register now. You will receive a confirmation email with your login details to join us from the comfort of your home. Harvest Field Education Services, your best guide to studying abroad. Email harvestfieldedu@yahoo.com.